Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions, this is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Kathryn Raaker's World, our syndicated TV show, and Let's Just Talk, our syndicated radio show. Our guest today hasn't been on in a long time. His name is August Turak. He's a successful corporate executive, entrepreneur, award-winning author, speaker, and consultant. He's the founder of the educational nonprofit, the Self-Knowledge Symposium Foundation. As a frequent monastic guest, Turak has been living and working alongside the Trappist monks of Mepkin
Abbey
since 1996. After a corporate career with companies like MTV, Turak founded two highly successful software businesses. He has published many popular leadership articles for Forbes and been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Selling Magazine, and the New York Times and Business Week. His books, Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks, uses 1,000 years of Trappist business success and his own entrepreneurial experience to demonstrate that monks are not successful businessmen, despite adhering to the only highest of ethical values, but because they do. Turak's inspirational true story, Brother John, a monk, a pilgrim, and purpose of life, combines his $100,000 Templeton Prize winning story with an original oil paintings from award-winning artist Glenn Harrington. August Turak lives on 75-acre cattle farm outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. For more information, you want to visit his augustturak.com, but he's got a brand new book, and I'm very excited. It is called Not Less Than Everything, One Man's Quest for Spiritual Enlightenment. And I have to tell you, when I got the book yesterday, I had to briefly go through it, right? Because I wanted to get the best part of what I could. And I have to tell you, I'm reading again, now that I had asked August some questions prior to the show. So August, tell me, why now did you write the book?
Actually, that book has kind of been in development for many years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, there's a couple of reasons that I said in the introduction why I wrote it. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Kathryn. One, I just wanted to write a rattling good adventure story, and that's because so many people have asked me to tell them your stories are so incredible. You should, where can we hear more about your stories? So, all these different things, that I was a monk and an entrepreneur and worked for MTV and worked for this crazy hillbilly Zen master and worked with a psychologist who was one of the people that was working with doing research on LSD the founder of I was a live-in protege of the IBM, the guy who founded the IBM Executive School. I lived in his house with his family for over a year. How do all these things fit together and all these stories, and your life is just a fascinating, story. So that was one of the main reasons, just to do that. The second one was I want to reintroduce the miraculous. All kinds of things that I have to say are supernaturally miraculous happened to me on my spiritual quest. And most spirituality today, to the extent that it's allowed, most of what people try to push it away, it's this private thing you can't talk about, is really just about health, wealth, and progeny. It's really just being nice to each other. And when you talk about truly, the supernatural usually just gets relegated to this superstitious where, I was going my way to work today and I usually hit this red light, but today it was green because I needed it to be green. So God did that for me. That's not what I'm talking about. The third was, there's so much darkness in the country right now. There's so many, I list them all in my introduction to the book, but last February, the CDC came out and said 57% of teenage girls report being constantly sad. 30% report being having seriously considered suicide. We have all these young men living in their parents' basements. They have a new name for it: failure to launch. They're not going to college. They're not getting married. We're not having any kids. Every half the country is on meds. Depression is the number one health problem. 40% of incoming freshmen at Duke University and our top universities are already on antidepressants. Suicide is and among teens and among middle-aged men has gone off the Richter scale. So my point I say is that these are not all individual discrete problems. They're all symptoms of what I call a spiritual crisis. And when I was a young man, I was afflicted by depression, and this anomie sense that so many have today of, does anything really matter? I've had a girlfriend. I've had a few beers. I've been to New York City. Now what? What else is there to life, right?
Mhm.
And so I had that sense, but I also ran into some incredible, if you want to call them miracles or coincidences, early when I was still 18, 19 years old, that introduced me to this idea of cosmic consciousness, or what the Christians call unio mystica, the mystical union with God. Einstein said no problem can be solved at the same level of consciousness at which it is posed. And it's gradually just dawned on me in some of the reading I was doing that the whole problem of life can't be solved within life. Somehow you have to have a transcendent experience that takes you beyond what we take for reality to be able to look back and see what is real, kind of like waking up from a dream. You'll never understand the dream while you're dreaming. The only way you can really understand it is to wake up. So these revelations when I was young, and I have to be candid, also I took some LSD, which absolutely blew my mind and allowed me to see through life and realize that what we were taking for reality was not really reality. And all these things together launched me on this incredible quest. And right after that, I got into Zen particularly, and I ran into this crazy hillbilly West Virginia Zen master that blew my mind. And I had a spiritual experience with him that got me to drop out of college, and I became a carpet installer, and I had a truck and a van, and I pretty much lived out of the back of that van, and I traveled from city to city looking for anybody that could help me figure out life. So I went on this spiritual quest. People often make the mistake. I just saw somebody today wrote about me, and they said August Turak is an entrepreneur who became a spiritual seeker. And I thought to myself, no. August Turak has only ever been a spiritual seeker. That's all he's ever been. He happens to be an entrepreneur once in a while. He happens to go into business once in a while. He happens to, no, the essence of who I am is that spiritual seeker I became when I was 19. Everything else has just been the sideshow, which is, you and I discussed my first book, Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks, where I said, seek first the kingdom of heaven and everything else takes care of itself. And the monks, and I demonstrated in my own business, what we think of as success is a byproduct. It's a trailing indicator of living your life for a higher purpose. And my life is a demonstration of that. So I'm hoping that my book will inspire other people to follow in my footsteps. It's because, as you asked me this before the show, you said, what's been the payoff for me? I struggled with depression, terrible depression, for many, many years, from the time I was 14 until 1998, which is like 30 years or so. And then I had a cataclysmic spiritual experience, finally, the thing I've been looking for all those years. And from 1998 to this day in 2023, I've never had a moment's depression, just ever increasing joy and peace, and most of all, incredible gratitude. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wonderful way to live.
Right. I agree that I think that we try to do so much that we don't have time to smell the roses and to talk to God or to meditate. And I think in this country today, we're in a real crisis for, I mean, I see so much greed in this country and around the world. And I really am so proud of so many people that are younger and older than me that are coming to church, that are coming back to God. And because this is just a temporary place, this isn't what we were born to. This is just a test.
Absolutely.
On earth. And the older I get, August, the more I appreciate the time I have. But I can't wait to see heaven and to God, because that's what we should be trying to do. And
I agree.
And so I'm going to take a short break here if that's all right with you. Where can people buy your book, August?
Okay, first of all, it's called Not Less Than Everything. One man's quest for spiritual enlightenment. You can get it on Amazon or any place like that, but also we're having a special offer right now. We're offering it for 50% off. It's $29.99, so we're offering it for $15 on my website, which is augustturak.com. That's August like the month, Turak, Turak. So augustturak, one word, .com. Also, right now, Amazon, bless their hearts, is running a special on the electronic version of Not Less Than Everything. You can get the Kindle version on Amazon for 99 cents. So that's a very limited time offer of 99 cents. It's a $10 value. So it's 90% off of Not Less Than Everything on Amazon.
And I'm going to plug my book right now. Are you ready for
Go right ahead.
It is Elizabeth Bromwell, The Case of the Chinese Leopard, written by Robert Taggart and his mom, Kathryn Raaker.
Oh.
And get it on Amazon. And I'm going to be doing the audio version of it. And there's going to be 7 more books.
There's going to be an audio version of Not Less Than Everything. It's in the editing process right now, so it'll be out in a couple of weeks. But right now, we just have the electronic and the physical copy.
So don't forget to go to our website at KathrynRakersWorld.com and letsjusttalk.com. We'll be right back. We're back with August Turak in his new book, Not Less Than Everything, One Man's Quest for Spiritual Enlightenment. You know, although your stories are wildly entertaining and often comical, Turak wishes to address the individual and collective absence of higher meaning and purpose afflicting Western civilizations. He says, we face a sad litany of individual and societal crises, including the opioid epidemic and a suicide epidemic, increasingly afflicting young people and middle-aged men, like my brother, who passed away about 10 years ago from suicide.
Oh, wow.
But according to the World Health Organization, depression in Western civilizations is the #1 health issue. And we talked about that briefly. What can we do today? And with the pandemic and all the other forces from the evil forces in our country have changed in the last 3 or 4 years, our country. What can we do to make a difference besides praying, getting involved?
Well, absolutely. You know, I mean, although I want to be very, very clear about 2 things, is that I have very strong political positions. I'm more or less conservative. Not more or less, I'm conservative.
I am conservative.
I know. I consider myself a moralist, even more so than a conservative.
Right.
But I am not, and I vote, believe me, I vote, and I even give some money to candidates I support, et cetera. But I don't believe that the problem that is afflicting us is in the end a political problem. There's a lot of political ramifications to it, but we're not going to fix it because we put a different politician in.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree
This is a cultural. The technical word for it is anomie. When a culture itself loses its way, loses its sense of purpose, loses its sense of higher meaning. Anomy, some woman gave me that a couple years ago. And, and also the issue that we have, everybody, we have to be really careful because the political, especially on the left, the political solution is a program. We need a program to fix this and a program to fix that. And I always say the problem with America is, whether we want to admit it or not, we all think that whatever problem can't be solved with money could always be solved with more money. So we like to throw money at stuff thinking that that's gonna fix it. And all the things, and I listed a lot more than the ones that you read, that you mentioned in my introduction to my book, I believe are all symptoms of a simple disease. Not a simple disease, it's a very complex disease, but it's a simple word: spiritual crisis. It's a crisis of lack of higher meaning. So the first thing, I remember Lou Mobley said that the first job of leadership, and I do this, by the way, in seminars that I do, the first job of leadership is to answer the question, what is the business of the business? Why do we get together every morning? Why do we get out of bed? Why do we come here to this place instead of some other place? What is the purpose of our business? What are we trying to accomplish? What's the mission? And making a profit is not a mission. So the more I thought about that, because I went to him as a spiritual teacher, not to learn about business. That was a byproduct, a wonderful byproduct that I got out of it, because he was a spiritual man. I said, what he's really saying is, what is the business of the business is asking, who are we, as opposed to who am I? So the first thing that I believe we all need to do is to sit down in front of that darn mirror that we hate looking into and say, what is the business of my life? If somebody followed me around for 3 weeks with a video camera and showed me the video that they took, what conclusion would they come to about what my life was all about? You don't find out. We had an old saying in business, is called dollar votes. Don't ask people what they would buy. Watch what they do buy. Watch what they actually spend their money on. It's like this woman I saw one time doing a commercial, and she was going like this: world peace, new roller skates, world peace, new roller skates. So what is the center of your life? What is the things that you're living for? And all too often, although we like to say we're living for world peace, and what did I forget his name, Raaker, I think his name is, he said everybody's for world peace. Nobody wants to help mom with the dishes.
That's right.
So when you really get down to it, what is your life all about? And what kind of reordering of your priorities do you need to make? What kind of life are you living? It's like my first spiritual teacher said, it's not the prayer you say, it's the prayer you live. He was a West Virginia hillbilly. It ain't the prayer you say, it's the prayer you live. How are you living your life? Are you living your life the right kind of way? And people say to me, oh, well, what is the right kind of way? You darn well know exactly what the right kind of way is. So are you living the right kind of life? Are your priorities in the right place? Is your church if you decide that you'd like to have a nicer house in another neighborhood, do you say, oh, well, churches are churches, I'll get rid of this church and go to that church? What difference does it make? The house is more important. The house is what I really got to focus on. I tell a story in my first book, Business Secrets, about doing some lectures on spirituality at some local college campuses, and some kids, 4 boys actually, came up and asked me to start mentoring them. And I said, okay. I said, just become a club, put in the application, that'll get you a room, and I'll come over every Thursday night and I'll mentor you. This was the beginning of the Self-Knowledge Symposium, by the way. That's what they came up with that name. Mm-hmm. No sooner did I do that, Kathryn, than I got a telephone call offering me the job of a lifetime, from a really good friend. Said, we're putting the gang back together. I'm going to pay you a obscene amount of money, all the perks, but you have to move to Washington, D.C. And I said, Joe, I can't move to Washington, D.C. because I just promised these 4 kids. And he said, well, there's all kinds of campuses up here, colleges. Whatever you're doing with that college, you could do up here in Washington, D.C. I said, I got a better idea, Joe. It was United Press International, by the way. They were going to take it back out of bankruptcy. He said, I got $150 million to take it out of bankruptcy. And I said, move UPI to Raleigh. He said, my wife, Molly, would never go for that. And I knew Molly really well. And I said, well, we got a lot of women down here. If my students are interchangeable with students in North, And I not only did I not accept that job, but the word got out on the street that I was a religious fanatic, and therefore the phone stopped ringing. You know, but I made it. I had made a promise, a spiritual promise. And that's what my first spiritual teacher said. He didn't talk about how this meditation technique's better than that or this. No. If you make a promise to another person, then you keep that promise. You live the right kind of life. And so I felt like I had to keep that promise. And it was because of everything flowed out of that promise. Because I didn't, because I couldn't get jobs anymore, I started my own company. I became fabulously successful. Then my college students were the ones that turned me on to Mepkin Abbey. My college students were the ones that turned me on to the Templeton Prize. One of my college students actually gave me the idea for Brother John essay that I wrote that won the Templeton Prize. Then in 2009, a couple of my students from Duke called me up and said, "Hey, we need some help in New York with a company we're starting. We can't pay you, but we'll pay your expenses." And I said, "Oh, what the heck, service and selflessness. I'll do it for nothing. Just give me some stock." So they gave me a whole bunch of stock. And I came home after 3 months and I said, "Well, I know how this goes. This stock will never be worth anything." But anyway, I did the right thing. 5 years later, they went public for $1.2 billion. And all this stock was worth $28 a share. I mean, all these things fell out from my willingness to turn that job down because I had higher meaning and purpose. My spiritual life comes first. Those college kids represent my spiritual life. I gotta. If I'm gonna talk the talk, I gotta walk the walk. And this is how how I want to live my life. And if to get started on what we're talking about here, you got to do what we used to call, you and me are both old enough to remember the 60s, what we used to call back then an agonizing reappraisal. You got to do it. Back then, everybody in California was talking about everybody needs to do an agonizing reappraisal. You got to ask yourself, am I living the right kind of life? Are my priorities straight? And all too often, we're materialistic and we put all those things first. I don't remember if you remember, Kathryn, but in my first book, I said that all motivation can be explained as a longing for transformation. I said every acorn is longing to be transformed into an oak. Every caterpillar is longing to be transformed into a butterfly. But there's three forms of transformation. When a thirsty man drinks, he transforms his condition. When a poor man hits the lottery, he transforms his circumstances. But when Mr. Scrooge wakes up on Christmas morning, a completely different man, he has experienced a transformation of being. And what we're all longing for is a transformation of being. This is why we go to the movies and watch all these people being transformed. They all start out as selfish SOBs, and by the end of the movie, just like Mr. Scrooge, they've become a loving person. And we like those movies because that's what we would like to be doing with our lives. But instead, we settle for a transformation of condition. We try to fill the hole in our souls with donuts, which is a transformation of condition, and we don't get happy. We just get fat. Or we try to become famous, or we try to make a lot of money, and those are transformations of circumstances. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of fame. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of money. But if you think you're going to satisfy that longing for transformation that is really a transformation of being, then, and so my book, Not Less Than Everything, is my quest for a transformation of being and how I found a transformation of being.
So how do you start your day?
How do I start my day?
Let's hear about your day.
Every morning I get up at 6:30 and I go to the gym, and I have a killer personal trainer who murders me. And then after that, I go to a stretch zone place to be stretched out.
Okay.
And then most of what I do now is my writing and my all the stuff I'm doing with my nonprofit and interviews and traveling to do lectures and talks and things like that. And I also have a farm to take care of. And of course, I take a nap. I like to take my nap every day. I mean, so On the other hand, if you're asking me the question, what is my spiritual discipline or something like that, and I go to the monastery, but I don't have any.
What
I
do you
mean,
mean you have no spiritual discipline? What do you mean by that?
my whole life is my spiritual discipline.
Okay, so that makes a difference.
Yes,
so it's
but
not
it's
about greed. It's not about things that we have on this earth. It's what you're trying to attain.
no,
that
I don't. I'm not trying to attain anything
So
anymore.
you don't want to go to heaven? Is that what you're telling me?
I already know that I'm going to heaven. I don't need to
You're
attain.
going to heaven.
I
Okay.
don't need to attain that.
God has already told you that, right, August?
Exactly.
Great.
That's part of that cataclysmic spiritual experience that I had back in 1998.
Right.
She kicked
So
that
we
seven.
have come to the end of our show today.
Oh no, Kathryn, already? You're so much fun to talk to.
Oh yeah, I know. Anyhow, but I want to wish you well with your book. I will sit down and read it, and I will challenge you to what I told you I was going to challenge you to. Well, don't forget to give your website and to give where people can purchase your book.
Okay, you can purchase Not Less Than Everything: One Man's Quest for Spiritual Enlightenment on Amazon or Walmart or Barnes and Nobles, all those places. But I'm urging you to come to my website, www.augustturak.com. That's August like the month, one word, Turak, TURAK.com, augustturak.com.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Kathryn. It's been a real pleasure, obviously.
You take care.
God bless. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining me. To go to our website at KathrynRaakersWorld.com. Thank you so much for joining me.
Bye-bye, Kathryn.
God bless.